Hey folks, Jackdaw here. So, Exodus, the sci-fi RPG everyone's calling the next Mass Effect, or the one with Matthew McConaughey in space, which to be fair is one hell of a pitch.
Pew, pew, pew.
But underneath all of that, it's a story about leaving home to save it, about what happens when you come back decades too late, and how much of yourself you lose in the process. It's from Archetype Entertainment, the studio founded by Mass Effect's original architects, and it wears that influence proudly. Even the new key art is practically a mirror of the first Mass Effect poster. We talked about all of that and more last time, but now it's time to talk about you, and who you will specifically become in Exodus. Your traveller, the one caught between centuries, chasing the past while time keeps moving forward, and everything we know so far about their story, gameplay, companions, romance, and more. By the time we're done, you will know who you are, who you were, and who you might yet become. So let's jump ahead and step through a gate of heaven. Before you start rewriting destiny, let's make sure you know what specifically you've signed up to be. You play as a traveller, one of humanity's last deep space explorers, sent to recover ancient alien technology from dead worlds and use it to shape the future of our species. Think of them as the Indiana Jones of a dying galaxy, chasing the relics of lost gods through ruins that predate humanity itself. It all began thousands of years after humanity fled a dying Earth, aboard Ark ships en masse. By the time the last vessels reached the Centauri cluster, the descendants of the first arrivals had already evolved into Celestials, transhuman beings whose technology, culture, and arrogance outstripped us by millennia. To them, humanity is a nuisance that still needed oxygen, still bled, and still prayed. Out of that divide came the Travelers, humans who refused extinction, taking on the impossible task of reclaiming lost celestial knowledge to keep their worlds alive. But every mission comes with a cost. Sailing on the edge of light speed, days for them are decades back home. By the time they return, their families have aged, their dynasties have shifted, and the worlds they fought to save have already moved on. It's that interstellar heartbreak all over again, fighting for the future, knowing that you're leaving everyone you love behind. Their creed says it best. We sail on the edge of light speed, where time moves differently. As each day goes by, years pass for those who leave behind. Our service, our sacrifice, discovers worlds, seeds hope, breaks empires. That's what it means to be a traveller, to live outside of time itself, carrying humanity's survival in your hands, knowing that every victory means losing another lifetime. Now you play as Jun Aslan, the protagonist of Exodus, a renegade among the stars, a hunter of secrets and alien technology. Jun was born on Lydon, a human colony world that, surprise surprise, is slowly dying. The planet's air and soil are being eaten away by a celestial technovirus called the Rot, which corrodes the terraforming systems that keep the planet habitable. Jun is part of the Aslan dynasty, the family that once led humanity's exploration of the stars. Your father, Orion Aslan, was a legendary traveller, remembered as the man who turned Lydon into humanity's last stronghold in the Centauri cluster. Your mother, Ava, had celestial ancestry. Through her, Jun inherited something no other human has: neural induction, the ability to connect directly with celestial technology. You can sense it, feel it, even control it. It's what makes Jun vital to the story, and equally what makes them dangerous. According to Archetype's lore materials, Orion realized Lydon was dying. The Rot was beyond any human power to stop, even his. To preserve humanity's future, Orion and Ava genetically engineered a child designed to bridge both worlds, the human and the celestial. That child was you. The Aslan's plan worked for a time, but when Orion vanished on his final Exodus mission, the dynasty fractured. Gideon Aslan, that's your half-brother, claimed the throne and declared himself ruler. Jun, at this point still a child, was forced into hiding as Lydon fell into decay. Back on the interstellar analogies already, but we have a father chasing hope, through the stars, and a child wondering if that hope was worth the cost. In Archetype's official short story, A Future Among the Stars, Jun admits, "I was not made for Lydon." They spend their days scavenging celestial ruins in the planet's black markets, hearing voices in the wreckage that blur the line between machine and memory. The idea of joining the travelers is the only way out. So when Exodus begins, you're not continuing your father's story, you're merely starting from the silence he left. A half-human, half-celestial creation built to mend a fracture that might never heal. Every voyage Jun takes is a question flung into the void. Did your father leave you to the future, or did the future leave you behind? And beneath all of that, the need and nature to know who you really are in this world. Now, speaking of which, character customization in Exodus remains to be one of the most closely guarded features so far. During the Exodus gameplay reveal with Core Carnage, the developers said Jun can be male or female with some degree of customization. So far, all footage, key art, and screenshots show male Jun wearing their glowing Traveler's Gauntlet, a one-of-a-kind device that fuses with alien remnants to reshape your powers and tools, a fundamental gameplay mechanic that we'll come around to in a minute. Either way, I am pretty happy with how default Jun looks straight off the bat. Now, I am speculating here, but one very particular piece of key art on the Traveler page of the official Exodus website has sparked a lot of debate. It shows 3 figures standing side by side, each seemingly a different version of Jun Aslan. None of this is confirmed, but the symbolism is hard to ignore, especially given that this is Jun's overview page. We have, of course, male Jun standing at the center, the gauntlet glowing across his chest, the version we've seen most often. To the left, we have a crystalline figure known as a daemon, the result of a human merging with a silicate, a mysterious alien life form that, quote, hatches by fusing with its host. Most die in the process. Those who survive gain, well, as you can see by whatever the hell this is, translucent skin, immense strength, and intrusive alien thoughts. As Archetype describe it, daemons don't need weapons, they are weapons. Ultimately though, the Celestials fear them, which is the key takeaway here. And then on the right, seemingly, we have a female Jun, visibly altered in my opinion by celestial augmentation, her body laced with light and mechanical filigree. It mirrors the heritage of Jun's mother, Ava, and may represent what happens if potentially you are able to embrace the celestial within rather than resist it. Together they form a pretty clear trinity: daemon, human, celestial. 3 reflections of Jun's lineage, and maybe 3 paths your story could take. It opens up one of the game's biggest questions: how much of yourself are you willing to sacrifice to save the world that made you? How far can Jun delve into their celestial side before crossing the line from savior to something else entirely? Definitely at least worth the rumination. Additionally, Archetype talked a lot about the sheer amount of acting and performance capture going into Jun, which points to a more cinematic, story-driven experience, very much in that Mass Effect tradition. Now, in the very recent Founders Q&A from October 2025, Exodus's general manager, Chad Robertson, and game director, Chris King, outlined what kind of protagonist Jun Aslan really is. Robertson said he loves that Jun, quote, comes from humble beginnings. But the more telling part was this, quote, not really understanding the depth of their power or how crucial they're going to be to humanity's future. And that really is the spine of their character. They start small and only gradually realize what they're capable of. Robertson then called them a, quote, unsuspecting hero, which lines up pretty nicely with everything else we know. The story begins with someone out of their depth, still doubting the very same thing that sets them apart. The idea, he says, is that even as Jun's power builds, they never lose their humanity or the flaws that make them relatable. Chris King added a completely different angle. He talked about the observe, plan, execute, and oh shit moment that defines Exodus's combat. He compared this gameplay loop to scenes in Star Wars, Luke and Han blundering through the Death Star. You plan, something breaks, you then have to improvise. That adaptability, shall we call it, is a mechanic gameplay wise, but it's also a philosophy. it's how Jun ultimately survives. They don't win because they are the strongest thing in the room, they adapt because they have to. The devs want the players to feel that same quick thinking tension. It paints a picture of someone who doesn't start as humanity's immediate answer, but slowly realizes they might have to become it, whether they want to or not. Now, little of Exodus's gameplay has been shown publicly so far, but what's clear from Archetype's description and the gameplay reveal is that every system ties back to one core idea: Jun's fight to save a dying world without being destroyed by time itself. A key mechanic revolves around what technology you will bring on each mission. Decisions here can alter how the world looks when you return home. Because of the game's signature time dilation system, decades may have passed on Lyodon while only days pass for you. That means companions can age, dynasties can shift, and entire factions can rise or fall based on what you chose to take or leave behind. Combat itself is described as intense action, hard and unrelenting. Enemies abound and mere survival will be a constant battle. A mix of stealth, improv, and direct confrontation. You'll combine human weapons with salvaged celestial remnants to create hybrid tools and abilities. The gauntlet becomes the focus of every encounter. One example the developers gave is the Recycler. It starts out as a standard salvages gun, but instead of reloading, you feed it raw materials, metal scraps, debris, anything you find, and it converts them into resources. Then they pushed it further. What if the gun could transform? The result is a modular weapon that can shift between forms mid-combat. Think less of I have a loadout and more I have a Swiss army knife of mass destruction. That's the expectation for unpredictable sci-fi chaos. Now you will not be travelling alone. Across your missions you'll be joined by a small group of companions, explorers, scientists, mercenaries, and a few beings that completely stretch the definition of human. Archetype describes them as extraordinary allies, each of their own loyalties and history pulled together from the scattered remains of humanity's dynasties. And most importantly, romance is confirmed, though at this current point we don't know who or what we can particularly romance. On the notion of non-human companions, Exodus features, quote, the Awakened, which are animals that were uplifted thousands of years ago into sentient life. They have jobs, societies, even crime networks. And there's already one fan favourite, an awakened squid that most likely will join your crew. And while he is not a companion, somewhere out there is CC Orlev, played by, of course, Matthew McConaughey, a self-proclaimed spokesman for the Travellers and one of the most recognisable figures in the game's fiction.
I am CC Orlev. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
If you couldn't tell by now, Exodus already has more lore and proper nouns than most games do after launch. So here is the very short version of what Jun's actually up against. Emphasis on short because otherwise I'd need another chalkboard and several meters of red string, which we can do but maybe we'll save for another video. In a nutshell, the story setup here and what we're going to be facing. By the time humanity finally reached the Centauri cluster, the first explorers had already evolved into something unrecognizable. As discussed before, they became the Celestials, godlike descendants of humankind, who then divided into their own rival factions. We have the Crown, who rule through arrogance and politics, and then the Mariyama, who reshape flesh and metal into literal living weapons. Their leftover creations, the changelings and ghosts, still wander the ruins that they had made. And the oldest of them all, the Elohim, built the gates of heaven, which are essentially just mass relays. They are a network linking systems together. These so-called gods left them running long after they vanished. Nobody knows if they're dead or if they are watching from the dark. And what's left behind are the remnants, celestial technology scattered across dead worlds, powerful enough to rebuild a planet or erase one by accident. Jun's neural link makes them the only person who can use this technology. The catch is that every remnant comes with a cost. You might save the world, or you might make the same mistakes that ended theirs. That's what Jun's mission comes down to, whether they like it or not. And that is everything we know about them so far as a protagonist. Exodus is actually set to return at the Game Awards 2025 with new footage and hopefully, potentially, the release date we've all been waiting for. We still don't right know when this will land, though it is reported to be shipping in 2026. So here's hoping when it does actually drop, we don't all come back decades older. Whatever drops on the Game Awards, whatever we get, if we actually even see a release date, I will be streaming that show live, so you can join me in clowning, in speculating and tinfoiling live. It will be a good show, I'm sure. I'm also hoping we'll see more on the next Fable game. Maybe we'll see something on The Expanse, even though that's not coming out until 2027. The show's potential is rife for a manner of things I am definitely looking forward to. Either way, you are already in the right place as we start to learn even more about Exodus as its marketing cycle seemingly starts to hype up for this game's inevitable release. Until then, I have been Jackdaw, and I should go. Whoa, 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 whoa.